Everybody, I'm Nick Valencia, and we're live for the latest edition and last episode of the year of Nick Valencia Live. That is so cool to say, man. I remember going into this year, last year, if I went back a year ago, thinking about I don't really make New Year's resolutions, but I had a plan. Like this year, I was gonna, really take my health seriously. I was really determined on going as high in my career as possible, like reaching the highest level I could. And unexpectedly, you know, it didn't end up happening where I thought it was going to happen. Earlier this year, for a lot of you guys know this, those especially who've been following this along this journey, is I left CNN after 19 years. 19 years, the longest first job in the history of first jobs. I started as a teleprompter operator there, probably worked every single job behind the scenes until I finally got to on air about 7 years into my career there at CNN. And then for the next 13 years, I was zigzagging across the country, ripping and running and covering, historic moments, being on the front lines. And then at the end of May, my contract was coming up. We signed deals, 2-3 year deals at CNN, and we just couldn't come to terms here. And the media landscape was changing, and I saw an opportunity. And what is crazy is just sort of thinking about how we got here. We didn't come to terms, CNN and I, on a Monday morning, and then Monday afternoon, I got a random phone call from the History Channel that put me out here on the streets of LA. And I went out to dinner last night with one of the viewers, Robert Nava, who's a friend of mine from growing up. We played jazz band together and stayed connected, big supporter. And I was just sort of telling him how random it is that we are here and we landed here. I had every intention of trying to get to the highest level at CNN. But when I saw an opportunity to speak up for my community, when I saw an opportunity and a moment to meet, we talk about that a lot, trying to meet the moment here because there's a moment to meet. I went out into the streets. I was done with my History Channel job, and I remember walking into downtown LA, taking my phone and just starting to record. And the very first clip that I posted after leaving CNN did 3 million views. And then it was either the second or the third clip that I posted did 4 million views. And that was the sort of genesis of this. That is what gave me the confidence that we had something to say, and that you guys thought that we had something to say, and that you wanted to listen. And so we just did it a day at a time and kept showing up. There was videos out there of the federal agents that you guys have seen ad nauseum now at this point. All these clips on social media have gone viral, so many of them. And we started to see that very early on here in Los Angeles during the siege of Los Angeles in that first week of June. I got here on June 8th. Things really kicked off here on June 6th. And it has been nonstop ever since. And at this point, it's safe to say that I have my own show. It's pretty cool. I've always wanted my own show. When I hit my knees and meditated before I left CNN, I heard from my higher power, be prepared to go out on your own. And I did not want to believe it because fucking egos, man. Egos are a motherfucker. And I thought, look, man, I'm one of 6 people in the history of CNN. I'm never not going to be at CNN. I'm always going to be there, and I'm going to work to the very top. And one day I'm going to have a big billboard on Techwood Drive and all the things. And it just didn't work out that way. Things are working out even better, though. And you guys have probably heard me say it, is that things happen for us, not to us. And this journey that we're on, this journey that I'm on with Eric Sandoval, my wife, Rachel Valencia, it's a really, really cool one to be on. It's one where I feel incredibly free. I wake up in the morning and I know that I'm on the right path. I know that we could be doing other things, I could have gone back into the mainstream. And at one point, I think maybe you guys don't know this, but I was interviewing over at CBS, and you could probably tell from my latest reporting that I've got no interest of working over there. It is just another example of how our institutions and our legacy media newsrooms have been corrupted. What is happening at CBS, rather, what is happening at CBS is a disgrace. It's a disgrace to what legacy journalism is. It is state television. It's bending to the powerful. It's kowtowing to President Trump and the administration. And for somebody like me, and for the team that we have working here, it is not morally okay. Journalism should be a beacon, a light, and a sort of moral compass. We should be able to call balls and strikes. We should be able to hold the powerful accountable. And for some reason, for me, I always felt uncomfortable. It's not some reason. I was telling this to Bobby Nava last night. I don't come from a pipeline of prestigious people. or elite people. Like, thank God, look, hey, my dad poured his heart and soul into this house and built it before he died. And we have a beautiful home, and I was always growing up here in Eagle Rock. I always thought I was a little better off than I really was, because we grew up around a lot of middle class and lower middle class people. And it wasn't until I got to USC that I realized, man, I am not part of this elite ilk in this country. There's some really elite people in this country that sort of run things. And I saw so many of those people as my peers. I saw so many of those people as my colleagues there in newsrooms. And that's sort of a microcosm, I think, for what legacy media is now. It is the elite catering to the elite. And I don't know, I wore those $1,000 suits and, makeup and all the gel in my hair and all that stuff. And I tried to fit the part, and I was just wearing a mask. It's days like this where I really feel like myself. I really feel like what I'm doing is purpose driven and it's real. It's authentic. And that's why today I wanted to offer you guys a chance to talk to me. And I asked you guys yesterday, put out a message on the Discord at Substack to our more than 3,000 subscribers. And I said, hey, who is interested in talking, asking questions? The stars will be you. I want to get to know you guys more. And you guys responded. And our first guest, I think, is in the waiting room, but she's having a little trouble. So I'll just vamp a little bit. And so I reached out to you guys. I just put a message out there and you guys responded. So today it's going to be really cool. We have a handful of people who have signed up, I guess, technically signed up, not literally, to ask me some questions and to join and to be on with us and to sort of get to know me more. And I have no idea what you guys are all asking. I have no idea. Oh, yeah, that's right. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. If anyone watching right now, beside the people that are putting the lewd comments on YouTube, if there's anyone watching right now who wants to join, there is a QR code. Is it right here? Right here in the corner up there, Eric? Is that right? The other way up here? There's a QR code on your screen. Hit take your phone, scan the QR code, and you can join, and you'll be live with me. So first up is Beth. Beth, you're in the waiting room, and you're on with Nick Valencia Live. Come on in. I can hear you. Oh my gosh.
Hi, everyone.
Wonderful. Hey, and there's your granddaughter in the background. Hey, what's up?
Yeah. Say hey, Emma.
And for those of you guys watching, you guys may recognize Beth. She's a familiar face because just about, I don't know, what was it, 3 weeks ago, Beth? We were in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she was the accidental organizer. The video that we edited on her did about 250,000 views and counting. It's crazy.
I'm still getting notifications. Still like every day.
And she went viral herself on TikTok. So Beth Clements has been, she's been on the front lines herself. And so thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Okay, so the stage is yours. What do you want to ask me? What do you want to know?
All right. Well, okay. How do you earn your viewer trust without the backing of a big newsroom? Or do you find that without that backing in today's climate that you have the trust before you even begin?
I have learned very quickly. I learned in the streets of LA that brands are no longer trusted as much as individuals are. And so fortunately for me, I had built a kind of brand right on the national stage. I hate saying that. It sounds really egotistical, but there's like some recognition. Some people knew who I was and they followed me and they sort of saw what I was doing as being authentic, like you, right? You were a true believer and a fan from day one back in my CNN days. And what I learned is out in the streets is that people really want authenticity. People crave, knowing who you really are. And it's not like all the things that are polished and, you got to be perfect and never misspeak or never say or stutter. People just want to know who you are and they want to know that you're authentic and you're not full of shit. And so I think I learned pretty quickly that if I was just myself, people would like gravitate towards it. And so far, so good. It's been growing.
Well, I'm proud of you as a viewer from long ago. We've known each other a long time. Hey, do you feel freer now or more constrained working independently? More like is there more anxiety?
There is definitely more anxiety. I feel like, I don't know. It's so unique and so different from anything I've ever done before. And I always thought, like, I'd mentor a lot of people in mainstream, when I was in the CNN newsroom. And I always told people I wish I took a business class in college, because journalism is a business. It's not just passion. It's not just having a desire to, put a spotlight on something. And so right now, being like a small business owner, like, it's like nerve wracking. I have an employee and I've got to think differently, not just like a correspondent. I've got to think like a media company owner. And so what made me feel better is, like, I had Jim Acosta on. I don't know if you saw the interview that I did with
Mhm.
Jim Acosta,
I
but
love
like,
Jim.
I love Jim too. And to hear him
He's
say,
so
like,
great.
he has no idea what he's doing either. And I'm like, oh, okay, you don't either. Great. I really am kind of figuring this out as I go along as well. And so yeah, that part is kind of nerve wracking, but like the fundamentals never change, Beth. Who, what, where, when, why. I feel like I've taken some of the ethics that I learned at CNN, and one of the things that's really different now that makes it less nerve wracking is I feel like I've gone from working for a boss to working for you, to working for the people and to the audience, and sometimes you guys inform me about stories in a way that I wasn't getting informed about previously at CNN. There's more of a connection and there's less of a barrier between me and the audience, because I think sometimes they created that deliberately to try to make us unaccessible, which is kind of silly.
So what skills that you took from CNN, what matters most now? That you walked away, and what skills that you've used matter most now in when you're independent?
So I learned this and it keeps coming up. It's kind of a heavy story, but for me, it kind of it's it's something that I go into every story realizing, because at CNN, it was always critical mass. It had to be mass casualty. It had to be a lot of people dead or a lot of people affected.
Mhm.
And one day I was sitting on the West Desk. I was off air before I got on air. Right, I was working as assignment editor, and a news alert came across, and it was a CNS Wire, which is one of the city news service here in Los Angeles, and it said one person killed, two injured at a pot shop in Los Angeles. And I saw that and I was like, one person killed, Los Angeles, pretty local news story, right? I get home that night, and I don't know if Eric remembers, but Eric's in my ear right now. Eric actually told me about this. It was 10 o'clock at night, and Eric called me and he said, Mateo Butcher was killed today at his job at the pot shop. And that was the story that I passed on the assignment desk. That was he was one of my best friends from growing up.
Mm,
He
sorry.
was very close to me and lived with me at USC for the last year that I was there. And so that to me was a very early lesson that no matter how many people were impacted, that everyone's story is unique and important to them. And so I've taken that, and I hope it doesn't sound corny or cheesy, but I've taken that sort of approach and mentality that every person's story matters. And I've approached it to this job. And one of the things I think that, because Eric is with me on this, he's in my ear, he's my executive producer, and he's sort of brand new into journalism, even though he has some great editorial judgment. And one of the things I think that I'm bringing into this role as well is a realization that journalism is really ugly, and we see trauma and we see the worst of the worst all the time. And so I'm constantly checking in on people whose stories I cover. I'm constantly checking in on our team, because the most important thing is the people, Journalism is an act of service, and we get to serve every single day now in a way that I wasn't being able to serve at CNN. And that is like, that fills my heart with so much joy and like keeps me here. And I hope the money shows up, I mean, like, that's always the hope and the desire. But right now, it's like really purpose driven and mission driven, and it feels really fulfilling. So it's all about the people, Beth.
So what is the part that you enjoy most that you'd never found at CNN?
I could say shit and fuck and I mean, I could
That was my first question. Hey, can I cuss?
no, I could really be who I am. I think at CNN I was as authentic as I could be. I was as authentic as the brand allowed me to be. I worked within the margins of CNN. And now I literally work within the margins that I create for myself. And it was like a slow burn, initially. I had this whole perspective and idea when I launched this that I was going to be able to talk to Trump supporters and Trump voters because a lot of them watched me. And my very first guest was a Latino voter for Trump. And I learned very early on that if I did both sidesism, that it was just part of the problem, not part of the solution. And so right now, I get to focus on the people that I think are important are really doing the work. This idea of objectivity also, that's something that I always thought was bullshit, but I had to pretend that it was real, even though I'm not a fucking robot. I do not believe in objectivity. I believe in fairness. If you were a Trump voter or somebody that voted for Trump, I've got a lot of them in my life who I love very much. I have conversations with them. It's harder though when it's people that you don't know. It like, I was actually talking about this on a run with somebody right now. People are so unwilling if they think that you voted for Trump, if you don't really know them, to talk. And so I learned very early on that I probably shouldn't be trying to do this both sidesism and like call balls and strikes means calling people out for their bullshit. You know,
Mhm.
it means calling Trump out for these unlawful policies. I am against the mass deportation policy. And that doesn't mean that I'm against law enforcement. Like we saw a police officer at dinner the other night, and Ricky, my son, went and go high five him. I'm not against law enforcement. I am against the terror that they're raging and raining on our communities right now. And I think there comes a time in every journalist's life where you take a stand. Walter Cronkite did it during Vietnam. Edward R. Murrow did it early on with advertisers, where he was constantly pushing back against CBS trying to make money because journalism is bottom line oriented. As recently as Katrina, Anderson Cooper did it. And he cornered the market in being an emotive reporter because he cried on television. And so for me, I think I'm taking a stand. I am impacted by this and I get to speak up and take a stand. And all of that is a really long-winded answer to your question.
Well, no, because now, viewers, I did not feed him these questions. But where do you draw the line between your advocacy and journalism?
Oh, that's such a great question. That is such a great question because there are times where I find myself pulling back. Like, I think I need to get more Republican lawmakers on here. And I'm wondering because, how are we going to really address the issues unless we hold them accountable and get them to answer the questions and they're not siloed off? So I wonder if there is a better effort that I could be making to try to convince them that I would be fair to them when they came on. I would ask them tough questions. Scott Wiener was just on, California State Representative, and I was fair with him, but I was tough with him as well. Or at least I thought I was. And so I think like the advocacy, that's something that I am aware of because there's some people now that have thought that that's okay to pick up the phone and call me and harass me and say that I'm not a journalist. But I just think journalism sometimes at its best is activism. I think sometimes it is stepping up and saying this is morally wrong and we're going to take a stand here because things like, look, right now, I guess I'm encouraging people not to follow the law, but I think the law is bullshit. Our immigration laws are bullshit. And they're set up in a way where people set this up so they can make money. It is deliberately broken. There have been countless times where they've gotten to the red zone and tried to bring the ball across the goal line here, and Trump derails it or some Republican derails it because they lose their boogeyman. And so for me, I guess it is advocacy that I'm standing up for undocumented people, but I think I'm fair as a journalist in other aspects and I can have fair conversations. So I'm mindful of it. I'm aware of it. And I'm also honest. And I think what people in this new space, Beth, what I think is sort of what I'm understanding is that people want to know what the biases are of the journalists, like they do with their sports anchors. I use the example of Elle Duncan. She is a rabid UGA fan. She was at SportsCenter. Now she's going to Netflix. But people knew that when she was given the highlights of the SEC, she was going to be a UGA fan. It doesn't mean that she can't call the WNBA or she can't call hockey or do other things. She's just a homer. And for me, I am my grandfathers both crossed here illegally. They naturalized and they became citizens, one from Guatemala, one from El Salvador. Both my grandmothers were born here in this country, and there is no one that could say that I'm not contributing or adding value to this country. And so I am biased. I am the product of illegal immigrants, and I am contributing to this country in a way that native-born Americans are not. And so I'm taking a stand, and if that's advocacy, I'm okay with it. And if people others see it as that, I'm okay with it because I can be fair and I am aware of my biases.
If all of this ended tomorrow, what's the story you want to tell? If we didn't have to worry about what's happening to immigrants in this country, what's the story you want to tell?
I want my kids to know that when things got raw and real, and that when things got hard for dad, that he stepped up and he met the moment. That is the most important thing for me, Beth. I want my kids to know that one day, they're 7, they're 4 going on 5. They don't really understand what I'm doing. They know dad used to be on TV. They know dad used to work at CNN. They know dad has his own show now and all this, and that dad works with Theo Eric. But they don't, and they shouldn't. I want, you only get one childhood, and I want to protect their innocence as much as I can. You've got a granddaughter, you do a great job at protecting her innocence and just being there, being present for her. And so for me, I want my kids to know that I stepped up and we have so much privilege, and that I was aware of my privilege and I used it to speak up for people that couldn't speak for themselves. That's the most important thing for me. And I mean that sincerely. And I think that is something that I learned from my dad. My dad died when I was 17. I named my son after him. My dad was one of those guys who, when I was growing up, he was in banking. He was pretty successful, but then he left his job at about 5 years, without taking a drink, just kind of like me. And he opened up a sober living home. And so he started his own business when he was around my age at 42. And the example that I got from him was, you put your arms around the people with the slouch shoulders, the people that walk across the other side of the street. When they see people come in, you go to the other side because you think they're weird. You make friends with people who are not like you. Treat people with respect that may seem lesser than you. And I learned these lessons. I mean, these weren't things that he necessarily deliberately, intentionally spoke to me. They were just examples that he set. And so for me, I see that right now. I'm a 3rd generation Mexican American. I went to USC on a scholarship. I speak the way I speak. I look the way I look, and I dress the way I dress. And I could walk into rooms where there are rich white people and get their attention, right? I don't think that there are many people that are in my position, especially in my industry, that have this runway and this platform to step up. And so I'm very aware of that. And I think now is my time. And I believe in God and a higher power, and I pray every day. And I actually just sort of talk to God throughout the day. And I constantly get affirmations that I'm exactly where I need to be. And so I think the most important thing at the end of the day is that, my kids, they know who their dad is, and that they know the kind of person that I am. The sad part about it all, though, is that there's so many of the viewers that I have that were they loved seeing my family. They loved me sharing my family on social media. And simply because of the work that I'm doing now, I can't share my family on social media because
Your Facebook is a dumpster fire.
I mean,
The
speak on
comments
that. It's
are
crazy.
trash.
It's crazy. It's vitriolic. It's trash. I mean, I'm sure if I really, because I try not to go read the comments. Eric tells me not to. If I actually go through, there's probably some death threats in there. There's probably some people that are calling for, things to, so that's the hard part, is that I built this sort of, personality, this brand or profile that included my family. And now I have to hide them from the public because I'm speaking out and standing up. And I'm also realizing I'm getting really disappointed too. I mean, I felt like there's some people in my life who were progressive, I thought, or liberal, but they look at this and they say, well, these are lawbreakers. And again, what was said, that doesn't mean this is moral. Like there were laws that said blacks were 2/3 of a person, or
Right.
brown people, or segregation was lawful. I mean, this is the history of this country, and so to think that every law that Congress passes is a good law and that we should stand behind is
Let's
bullshit.
let's also not forget it's a misdemeanor.
Right? And they're being treated like criminals. They're
Right.
being treated by these
It's
like hardened criminals, and that is just so bothersome to
yeah,
me. You know?
yeah.
Yeah. These are great questions, Beth. God, thank you.
He's surprised.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
All right, now, because you did it to me, if you had a moment, if Trump was sitting next to you, what would you ask him?
First, I would tell him, God bless you.
Oh,
And
you're a better human than I am.
I would set the tone that I believe in Jesus Christ and that Republicans don't get to corner the market on God. And I would let him know that, and he could probably see in my eyes that I am sincere about the mission that I'm on. And I would tell him that I think he's wrong. And I would tell him that I think that he is being advised by people who are taking advantage of him. I would tell him that the only thing that is stronger than fear is hope, and that there's still a lot of it. And that I know that he is pushing the finger on the nerve of fear in this country because it works. I would also tell him that I think that he is the best America has to offer. And I don't think that is a compliment. I think that President Trump is a reflection of where we are as a country, and that we are obsessed with the optics of strong. We are obsessed with the optics of who we think is rich, even though they may not have money in the bank. This fakeness, this sort of highlight reel. And I think that he is brilliant at manipulating the media. And I would tell him that because I think he would probably be flattered by that. And it would open up potentially to him. I don't know. I honestly, at this point, think he's on a revenge tour. But, one of the things that Eric told me when we started working together is that you got to move so that the world doesn't change you. And so if I was in front of President Trump, I would try to be as kind as possible and just kill him with kindness, because a man like that is so nasty. And if there is even an iota that you are being disrespectful to him, he will come back tenfold. And so I think I would, if I had the opportunity to be there with him, that I would kill him with kindness. And I would tell him exactly why I'm on the mission that I'm on. And I would tell him he's wrong. I don't think that it would resonate or land because, again, I think that he is on a revenge path right now. And Project 2025 is real. And that he's using Christian nationalism as something, as an excuse to keep marching forward and deporting people, because he's got a racist in his corner in Stephen Miller, who literally wants to end birthright citizenship. And he wants to end immigration, legal immigration in this country. They want everyone to be white. They want everyone to be white in this country. And so knowing all that, I would probably say the things I could say if I could stand that and be as kind. I say all this shit now, but in the moment, who the hell knows how worked up I would be, and if I would even, be able to be as poised as I just was there. But that's what honestly, that's what I would try to do.
No, I stand by what I said to you 3 weeks ago. I probably just tell him to eat a dick and walk away.
I love it. Hey, look, somebody's got to call him out. Somebody's got to call him out. I love it. I love it.
It is what it is.
Beth, you're amazing. You're so amazing.
I love you, kiddo.
What other question? What other question you got for me here? And if there's anyone else out there, we were supposed to see Sharon Dunton, John Wyman, Rick Martin, anyone else who wants to scan. Either way, if you guys are, if it's just me and Beth, that's I love this too. I love this too. Awesome. Go ahead. Okay. What's the question?
Okay, let's see. All right. Well, okay. Somebody wanting to do this, somebody wanting to start out. What is your advice to them? Because I heard you ask Aaron and Jim. Now you've got your footing. You're 6 months into this. What's your advice to the next kid out there?
I would say that legacy media is not going away. It's going to look different, but if your dream one day is to work at CNN and be there, follow that dream, right? What I think is happened now is that legacy media isn't the only thing that's important. This is important too. And so if you want to do this, um, how I've had success is there was a moment out there that for me made sense to cover, and it was in line with the sort of things that I had covered and been passionate about in the past. You know, social justice issues, immigration, Los Angeles, all of that intersected in the first week of June, and I was like, "This, why wouldn't I cover this? Why wouldn't I go
Mhm.
out there?" And so, if you see something out there, you know, a slice of the world. I think the new age journalist is aware of the world, but is an expert in the slice of it. And so, if there's something out there, whether it's, you know, we see an attack on public health right now. If you're really interested in public health, go to public health school.
Mhm.
All this takes is being an effective communicator. And the people that are having success right now out there in new media are the ones that are effective communicators and are experts in a slice of something. They're aware of everything else going around, but they really say a lot about a little. And so if you feel like there is a gap out there in media, step up. I mean, this is America. You could be a small business owner. I launched it overnight. Now I've got Nick Valencia Media LLC, and we have paid subscribers. We have a media company now. We stepped up where there was a hole, right? Where there was a gap of coverage, and we stepped up to fill it. This is all to say, though, that I do think that there's still going to be NBC and CBS and CNN, and there's still going to be the New York Times and Washington Post, just like
Mhm.
Aaron. I want people to be aware, though, that you think your job is to hold the powerful accountable. And when you get into these legacy companies, you will soon realize that the people at the top are all working for other powerful people. And that even if you are as purpose driven and are as not jaded and idealistic as you want to be, you will learn very fast that journalism is a business. And that was very disheartening to me. And so I think that that's another bit of advice that I would give the kid out there who wants to do what I'm doing is don't be naive about this. This is a business. Journalism is a moneymaker. And you could be altruistic and not, but you could make a lot of money at those national networks. I mean, national correspondents, they could make $300,000, $400,000, right? At
Mhm.
big top 10 markets, you could be making $170,000, $180,000 as a reporter. But all of that comes with other stuff. And so be aware of that. Don't be naive. And at the end of the day, your job is to be a megaphone for the people. And so be in a place where you're not a brain dead megaphone. And for me right now, it's right here. It's here with you.
Well, I think a lot of us radical left scum walked away from walked away from legacy media after the last election because it was hard. And I'm not going to lie, it was hard to watch.
Yeah.
But something Aaron Parnas said on your show is if there is something big, you do turn on to CNN. You do turn on to the news. If there's something big happening, you want that news. But I find it comforting to find my niche news. Like,
Yeah.
you know how I feel
Yeah.
about the immigrant population,
Yes.
about the undocumented minors. You know how I feel about that.
I do.
So your news brings me what I need. And, and stuff like Aaron, Under the Desk News, I
Yeah. Oh, she's
love
great.
them.
Yeah.
That for the Epstein files, there is nothing like Twitter, which I'll dead name
Right.
that every day. But the girls on Twitter that, including the victims, that's where I get my news about that. So you can pick and choose.
I think you can pick and choose. And one of the things that was happening before I left was that people always turned to CNN when news was breaking, and then it's starting not to happen as regularly. And so that's something that was different and was an indicator
Mhm.
that the media landscape was changing. CNN
It has
always
to be bigger now. It has to be. It's not just there something happened. I'm going to turn. No, it has to be big. I'm
it
like
has to
huge
be
to
huge,
go back.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, it has to be huge to go back. And
Mhm.
one of the things, we just have another guest enter the room. I love it.
Hey.
One of the things that I think about doing this year in 2026 is that there's nowhere in independent media where you can go get a 30-minute newscast, where you
Mhm.
can go just get 6 o'clock evening news, 7 o'clock evening news, 6:30. There's nowhere on independent media where there's like an anchor of a show, like
Right.
of a, it's stuff like this. It's mostly sort of podcasts, talking to guests, talking to newsmakers and stuff. But that's something that I've thought about because I think everything is here now, right? Everything is
Mhm.
on the phone. And so I think there exists a scenario in the not too distant future where people are coming to Aaron or people are coming to
Mhm.
Carlos Eduardo Espino or Jim Acosta or me for the big stuff. As we evolve, as we get more comfortable and we get our sea legs, we've got 6 months in, things have evolved, things have gotten a lot better since we started. There's that runway, I think, this is changing fast. And as more viewers come on into this sandbox, into this ecosystem, that might be something that, that you see here. Who knows?
Mhm. Well, that would be cool. Yeah. When I need just a little bit of news, I will turn on like the 6:30,
Right.
ABC News
Right.
or not CBS anymore, but
I can't
yeah,
believe I
just when you
literally
need.
can't believe.
You know who else? And I absolutely love is I will tune in to Jon Stewart on the Daily
Oh yeah.
Show to
Oh yeah.
laugh. I will tune into HBO and John Oliver for an in-depth about. He did a great piece on Barry Weiss. I don't know if you saw it.
I didn't
It was
see it.
amazing.
I didn't see
Amazing.
it. I
Yeah.
got a very early indicator. I'll leave you with this, Beth. I was interviewing for a CBS job, right? And I was like, this is like early on, like a couple weeks out of CNN. And the interview was going great. And then I brought up the Elon Muskification of the middle class. And you could see their faces cringe, like, oh my God, he said a dirty word. He's not going to just be a parrot or what we want to say. And that should have been a very early indication to me that shit was about to change over there, and that they
Mhm.
didn't want to hold the powerful accountable. And so, look, I could be over there. I could be swallowing, whatever ethics or integrity that people have and go get a big old fat paycheck. There's certainly people over there who are working, who are my friends and who are journalists, sincerely.
Mhm.
But they are working for somebody who is parading as a journalist and is a Zionist and an apologist for Israel and has an agenda and calls her Substack Free Press, and she's full of
Yeah.
shit. And,
Mhm.
I don't want to work for someone like that. I'd rather work for myself.
Well, you're doing a good job.
Was that honest enough?
That was great.
Beth Clements, thank you so much for being our guest and for the questions. I love you so much. Eric
I
is
love
like,
you
I
too,
love
kiddo.
Beth. Oh God, say hello to Kyle. And you're also going to get a call from my mom's best friend because she wants
Mhm.
to. Okay, yeah, just letting you know that she wants to do what you're doing. She wants to help out, and yeah, she's here in LA, and so if you could help her out, do that.
Anytime. I mean, yeah, I will always help somebody do that. And, I'm always here when you need me.
You should start your own show. People love
Oh,
you. Usually, like you are like such a dynamic personality.
I what my TikTok is so dumb.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, like I love you, like you love me. Also, it's amazing. We're gonna leave you there. We got a couple other guests to get to. God bless you, Beth. I'll talk to you soon.
See you soon, honey.
Thank you. That was Beth Clements from Charlotte, North Carolina, the accidental organizer. If you guys want to learn more about Beth, go check out my Instagram page. I have the story that we did on her pinned to the top of my Instagram. Check it out. She's got a lot to say. If you guys want to join the show, scan the QR code at the top and you'll get to join me for some questions. I think, who do we have next? Who do we have next here, Eric? Oh, Lydia. Oh my God, Lydia.
Hi, Nick.
Hi, Lydia.
So nice
How
to
are
meet you.
you?
Good. I'm good. I'm sorry I'm late, but I wanted to make sure got on to support you. So,
Oh my God,
I want to wish you a very happy holiday season. And thank you so much for all that you're doing for all of us to get the message out and all the great reporting you're doing. I really appreciate it. I know all the people that I'm talking to here in Georgia really appreciate it and would like you to continue and keep going so that we can get real facts and information. So I appreciate
Thank you.
that.
Lydia is one of like the true believers, somebody who basically since the moment I launched my Substack was there in the comment section, sharing our stuff, sharing it with her family members, subscribing, getting paid subscriptions for others.
Yeah,
That's
I wrote
so
about
awesome.
it. I wrote about it because, it's really important that we support each other right now. And, I'm a big believer in community. And right now we have a very, in my opinion, big hole in our community for leaders. And we really need people to be up and use their voices and advocate for the things that they care about. So I have been doing that for a long time for people with arthritis like me. So, I want to try to share what I learn with other people from all the books I read. And I do that with, just like you, just by building a website, putting it online and sharing what I learn with others. So I think it's really important that we try to unite and give facts out when we can to people.
Amen. Amen. What
Yeah.
do you think has been like the most important story that has gotten covered by new media this year? Sorry, my light just went out. I had a ring light.
Gosh, there's so many. I mean, for me, like you, Nick, I'm carrying my passport around all the time now. And I think so many people don't understand that so many Americans like me and you were born, in America. My whole family's here. We're all here thriving. But, now I have to feel a little bit uneasy in my own country, in the country I was born in, and carry my passport with me, which, I'm used to because I travel quite frequently, but it's still, something I shouldn't have to do. Like I shouldn't have to go for a walk in my neighborhood and carry my passport with me. I shouldn't have to worry about having it with me at all times. I think that's unacceptable. And more people need to speak up and use their voice and tell people that, this isn't okay. There are so many of us who are bilingual and trilingual, people who most Americans don't necessarily see as Americans, but are, now having to live with this constant worry and concern that we really shouldn't have to live with. And it's just disappointing that so many people are not understanding the gravity and weight of this moment. And trying
What do you think? What do you say? What do you hear from people in Georgia? I mean, when you share the stuff, and we're in the South in the Bible Belt. Like, what's that been like? The conversations you've had.
Wow, it's been hard. I'll be honest with you. I was born and raised in California. My family is still in California. Coming here in the South has been a very eye-opening experience. It's been very difficult for me to adjust. And not because I haven't met some great people, I really have, but, I just, I still think that the South has a long way to go to understanding the contributions that immigrants from all over the world make to make our country the phenomenal, economic engine it is. And I think there's a huge lack of education, and that's why I try to share all the books I read with people when I can, because I think reading is the most critical thing that we can do right now.
I mean, I think the only reason that I'm at where I'm at is because I read so much as a kid. I mean, look at that. How many books have you gone through this year? Holy
a lot, and I really encourage everyone when I meet them. So, you asked me, what do people say? So first of all the people that I encounter that are Spanish speakers and I know are Spanish speakers, they're terrified. They are scared to leave their homes. Many people I know in some of the restaurants I'm used to seeing all the time are scared to leave their homes and go to their job.
Yeah.
And they have stopped going to work. And that's a very bad thing. I understand why people can't understand that migration has happened all over the world, and it will never try to stop it. I mean, really, it's not, you just can't control where people are going to move to and why they're going to move there. And I don't seem to understand why people can't grasp that. This book, Latino Land, that I read and I keep talking about, I really hope everyone reads. She does a phenomenal job of talking about world history and migration patterns, and I think she did a really great job. And the lack of understanding for people who, can't understand that there are many reasons why people move around. Like my husband and I just went to Greece. We might move to Greece. We might move to Spain. It's our choice, right? Like you can't tell people that this imaginary line means that you can't ever move here.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's about money, right? It's about taxes and making sure that you're not going to harm the country and the people. And what else is there? I mean, does it really matter if I want to open a bakery or a store here or there? I mean, it really is just a lifestyle choice.
It's a man-made construct, this line where they say, hey, this line, you cross this line, all of a sudden you're illegal, and we could dehumanize you and treat you like shit and like you're an animal, and degrade you and treat you as like lesser than. And I just don't understand that, especially from people around me who are Catholics or conservatives or who are Christians or who are just anyone who has a belief in a higher power, and this idea that we shouldn't be compassionate to those who are vulnerable, and this idea that our country, America welcomes immigrants. We're the land of immigrants. And somehow that like this idea that we're full, or that, okay,
or there's not enough space. Or there's not enough land. I mean, give me a break. Listen, my husband and I travel a lot. We've driven across this country. We've flown to so many places. I've been to Billings. I've been to New York. I've driven from California to Texas numerous times. I've been to Florida. You can't tell me there's not enough land. That's BS. Okay, I've seen it. I have my photos. I have my pictures. The problem is a lot of people just want to live in their small towns and have a small town mentality. They don't like change. They resist change. Right. And that's why I really encourage people to get a passport and travel. You have to see other countries and how they function and how they welcome immigrants, because everyone needs new people at the end of the day, new energy, new innovation. Where would the cooking industry be without El Bulli, inspiring a whole new generation of chefs to challenge their thinking on cooking and innovate and create all these wonderful, great new Michelin star restaurants that everyone from around the world goes to that country just to go experience the food. And, that's, stuff that people can only understand if you are able to travel, if you have a desire to travel and a willingness to sit down with other people, have a meal, share a meal. That's why I support Chef Jose Andres's Longer Tables conversation initiative. It is so important. I can't tell you how many wonderful people we just met in Greece when we were traveling throughout the country and through the islands. And, people from Albania were coming there to work, and they were sharing their stories with us. I met people from Vietnam. I met people from up north in Norway and Sweden. And, there's people from all over coming to every country. And like I said, I don't know how people can say, you're not allowed in this country unless you pose a serious threat.
Or unless you pay Trump $1 to $5 million for a gold card, he's selling citizenship. It's just so crazy. It's so crazy.
It's just foolish. Yeah.
And it's, we were in the fields in the Central Valley for one of our first stories, and we heard there, you never see white Americans in the field working for $20 an hour, $17.50 an hour, in triple digit temperatures with the sun just beating down on you. No one ever is out there that looks, lighter skinned than you and me. It's just, what do you got there? What is that?
I'm plugging my sister's book that she's in, Sacramento Noir. My sister is a published author. Her name's Nora Rodriguez Camagna, and she is published in this. She's the last story in this book. She just gave it to me for Christmas. But yeah, we grew up in the Central Valley. I grew up in the Central Valley, and my parents went to the fields, and every morning I would get up and go to the fields with my parents before school. And they'd pack us all up in the truck. And, I'm going to say this as a disclosure. My sister, who's published as a published author, and I would write my mother in different ways. We see her differently because of the age gap and difference that we are in. But, I have a lot of respect for my parents. They worked really, really hard. And this narrative that all the people that come here to work in the fields are doing bad things. I'm sorry, that's stupid and totally moronic for you to say. My parents have several kids. I'm not going to say how many. Too much information there. But they worked really hard. I mean, my mom was up early making us, egg and potato burritos that she put up in the foil paper, getting us all ready to go, go wait for the truck to come pick us up. We'd get in the back of the truck and be all cold and bundled up and go to the fields and work. And then they'd come home, get us off to school, prepare our lunches. And while we were at school, they'd go run the errands, like go to the grocery store, like everybody else, go to the grocery store, do the house cleaning, do the chores. Then they'd get ready and they'd go to their shift at the cannery. So again, when did my parents or most of these farm workers have time to go do all bad things that the right loves to tell the story of? I'm tired of it. And I really need us to start pushing back on that narrative and those folks who keep wanting to amplify that, all Spanish speakers are not contributing to our country.
They know how that started, or like this idea of the lazy Mexican. Like, where does that even start? You never see a Mexican out there homeless on the street. All the homeless people, they're always working hard or they're taken in by their families. Like, I don't understand how that, all of a sudden this blanket broad brush, we're all gang members or Tren de Agua or Mara Salvatrucha or whatever it is, it's or were these hardened criminals? Because like Beth was saying, this is a misdemeanor to cross. It's not like this hardened felony, it's
exactly. It's because, it's easier to paint people as other. And, I have written, several letters to my senators, Ossoff and Warnock here, to Mike Collins, but he's a Republican and quite frankly, he doesn't care. I think he's a terrible human being, but that's my opinion of him. But, I try to use quotes from all the books that I read, like, Cast, other things when I write my letters to have supporting evidence and research when I submit my letter. So I'm encouraging everyone to please write your reps, use AI like I do sometimes now, because quite frankly, it's very time consuming to, every day something new comes up and you're having to, oh gosh, am I going to write about this now and this now? It's exhausting. I've been doing it for a very long time. And I'm going to tell you, I have several letters, like, I don't even know now, like what topics I've covered. I've covered the NIADC and the need for to keep research going. And, I try to advocate for, immigrant rights and, farm workers. And, it's just, it really is exhausting. And I feel for everybody who's on Substack who tells me that they are so tired. Believe me, I am so tired. I have been writing and making calls. I have been trying my best to keep up with all of you and to be united in this fight for democracy in our country again. We really need to come together as Americans. And, I feel terrible for the people of Ukraine. We are letting the Ukrainians down. And, I hope that we find a way to remember that we need to fight for democracy and free speech. It's very important that everyone stays educated. And, there's libraries are there for everybody. If you need a resource to help, if you don't know the right words, sometimes I don't know the right words, go to the library, pick out a book. And, it's okay to quote someone else if you don't have the words all the time, when you don't know what to say, when you pick up the phone and you call your senator's office and your congressman. Like, I love that, sometimes Jess Craven puts out the template for me. So, if I'm so exhausted, but I want to help and I want to participate, I have that template there that she's graciously taken the time to put together for me. That's a helpful tool, a helpful thing sometimes when I'm just, at my wit's end of like, what's happened here? Where did everyone lose all the care for everyone? And look at people as human beings. Yeah. I mean, I just don't understand.
Well, you are doing your part. That's for sure. You're doing your part and stepping up and being out there, writing your lawmakers and just supporting folks like us. You have been so supportive, and I cannot thank you enough, Lydia. I just from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here with us and supporting us. I really
please, everybody, if you can also follow, people like Ruth Ben-Gilhot, people like Tim who wrote the book On Tyranny. On Tyranny is free, read by John Lithgow on YouTube. Please watch the video if you don't like reading. Choose audiobooks. Every time I try to meet someone, I try to share a book or something I've learned, or encourage them to follow you on social media, or other journalists or other writers that I like, to hopefully get people engaged. And because we really need everyone to understand that this is a big year, and we really need to come together and do what we can to salvage what we can of the rule of law and due process and human rights. People
Big year, big
Yeah.
year, election ahead, the midterms. John Ossoff has been listed as one of the most vulnerable, if not the most vulnerable senator out there.
Are you going to interview him? Yeah,
I hope so. Hey, look, I put the offer out there to Senator Ossoff. He said he didn't have time.
I hope he does, because he's going to get a call from me, and he knows my letters. So I've sent him 5-pagers before. Trust me, he knows. He'll know. So I hope he chooses to come on and listen to us, and go out into the community and talk to the Spanish-speaking people who are doing the construction jobs and the restaurant jobs. They are terrified to leave their homes, and they're terrified to go work and go to the grocery store. And we can't function like this. The state cannot function like this. We need the tax revenues. We need the manpower, and we really need everyone to please, do what you can to use your voice and step up at this moment.
Lydia Page, Georgia's finest. Thank you so much for taking the time with Nick Valencia Live. We'll see you
Thank
next
you, Nick.
year. That was Lydia Page. And we are going to close out the show with a surprise guest, Eric Sandoval, joining the stage.
¿Qué onda, compa?
What's up, man?
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, aquí aprovechando con mi amigo.
Aquí. Sorry, my apologies to everyone that's saying the messy office, but this is where a lot of behind the scenes for Nick Valencia News goes on. I'm currently operating the show while also calling in. I have a couple of comments from the chat. Elliot Seattle wants to know why you don't play more golf, Nick.
Why don't I play golf? I think I'd probably have more connections if I did play golf. I think that's like, I don't know, bro. It's like a really white sport. I don't know, man.
Well, I've seen you wear boat shoes without socks, so that's not
an okay. That's fair. That's fair. I love it. I don't know. Maybe I pick up golf in this 2026. Maybe if you invite me, I will come. How about that? Invite me and we'll play a round of 9 holes.
You hear that, Elliot Seattle? If you're in Seattle, travel down to LA, go to Atlanta, invite Nick, he'll play some golf with you.
Or invite me out to Seattle. I'll come play with you, man. Why not? There's a story out there, maybe. Who knows? Let's make it happen.
So my question for you, Nick, is does anything give you hope for the coming year? I mean, you and by extension myself have been covering some pretty sad shit as of late. Do you have any hope for 2026? What makes you hopeful? I'm assuming you do have hope. You generally are a rather glass half full kind of a guy.
I'm hopeful, honestly, man, like seeing your family grow and seeing you become have a second kid, and, seeing, I had somebody reach out to me. This is another hopeful aspect, and like something else that was a God shot to me. I'm in recovery, I run a program, and I had somebody reach out to me who is a friend of mine for 20 years and asked me to be their sponsor. And so for me, that is like a God shot that I'm on the right path and that I'm an example, and I need to continue to set an example. But it gave me hope that there was someone else that like was ready to be done, and like, I'm so excited because I know that the best days of his life are in front of him. And so stuff like that continues to happen. The world keeps going on. The world keeps turning. People that are trying to just do better in their lives, like I try to do better every day. Some days I fall short, I've fallen short with you. I know that, man. But for the most part, we got a really good thing going, man. And I'm hopeful that, look, man, this is serendipity for me. The fact that like we're working together, this is hopeful. The fact that like we each had our own careers and paths for 20 years, only for each of us to be free at the exact time the world needed us. And that gives me tremendous amount of hope that not only that we're doing it together, but that like we're making an impact and we're making a difference. And I think that you're seeing some of that happen. And I think that like seeing the changes happen with you, seeing you being in journalism, honestly, motherfucker, that gives me hope, dog. Like it gives me hope to see you and to see my family and to know that one day our kids will look at you, my kids will look at me, and they'll know that their dad stood 10 toes down, man. We say that shit all the time, that we stood on business and that we're here. And I think that gives me a lot of hope, is that, we can do this and we're doing this and people are responding.
Well, you mentioned briefly something that I had said once upon a time, but you mentioned it just a phrase. So for the viewers at home, I'd like to expand the whole story. The wise man that visited Sodom, which you made the reference. It was the story I said on one of the first shoots that we went on to cover. And we're telling you the story in the car before we got out to cover it. So I figure I'll tell everyone for the viewers at home. But there's this old Jewish parable, which I was first turned on to by the tremendous writer Elie Wiesel. It was the foreword from his book Testament. But it's this old anecdote about the wise man that visited Sodom. So I'm sure a lot of you know, biblically, Sodom, Gomorrah, this town where greed and lasciviousness and selfishness and cruelty sort of ruled. And one day, a just man, sorry, not a wise man, a just man visited Sodom. And when the just man came to Sodom, he would spend his days walking up and down the streets, ringing a bell, chanting against the evils of selfishness and lasciviousness and greed and cruelty. And at first, everyone would scorn him and yell at him. They didn't want him off the streets. Get out of here. But still, every day, he would walk up and down the street saying the same things. After a while, the people started to laugh at him, right? He was a clown. What good is it doing, going around preaching against all the greed and selfishness and cruelty? They would laugh at him. Then eventually, he kept doing it, and people just stopped paying attention completely. They didn't yell. They didn't laugh. They just ignored him. But still, he walked up and down the street saying this. One day, a little child stops him and says, "Sir, why do you do this? You walk up and down the street every day chanting against greed and lasciviousness and cruelty and selfishness, but no one's paying attention. Can't you see it's pointless? You can't change people." And the just man looks at the child and says, "You know what? You are right. When I first came to Sodom, I believed that I could change people. And so I walked up and down the streets chanting so that I could change people. But if today I still do it, I've learned that I can't change people. So if today I still do it, it's so that those people will not change me." And I've always found that to be a very sort of powerful anecdote. Who do we do this for? I suppose at the end of the day, we live our lives for ourselves and our families. And so I'm glad, Nick, that you are making sure that the world doesn't change you.
Oh yeah.
And rest in peace, Mateo Butcher.
Rest in peace, Mateo Butcher, man. That's somebody who I did not expect to talk about today, man. I miss him too.
No, I didn't expect to hear that either. I didn't realize that you had actually come across that story on The Wire before you found out that it was him. So it's crazy. The world works in odd ways, and as you have often said, things happen for us, not to us. So, inshallah, the next year, everything will go well, huh?
I don't know why I'm wearing this shit anymore. I don't need it. You're like talking to me.
You're true. Yeah, I'm on camera. So, no,
yeah, I think this year is, we saw that the summer of 2025 was the era that gave birth to new media. And we grabbed onto that and we gravitated. And then we got that stamp of approval from the Pew Research Center. Financial Times did an article on us that never ended up coming out. But when we started getting these affirmations, it's like, okay, this is where we belong. This is where we should be. And we're only getting better at what we're doing. We're only getting more comfortable with what we're doing. And we're seeing that these stories, man, people like my mom, who's a news junkie, says the stories that you and Eric cover aren't on the news. And so for somebody who watches the news constantly, is on every single hour of every day, to know that I am informing someone like my mom, that we are informing the public, viewers that care. When I was out to dinner last night with Bobby, he's like, dude, you are one of the only people out there where we could turn towards information. And as like our institutions get more and more corrupted, as people start to realize that now, we will have a little bit of momentum and know a little bit more of what we're doing next year. And that gives me hope too, is that we're fucking in this, man. We're in this and we're not going anywhere. You say all the time before we end the show, we're in this for the long haul. And I believe that, man. On my best days, I know that we're doing phenomenal work, that we're doing great work. We're doing, I believe, God's work. On my worst days, it's fucking hard, man. It's hard. And it's like, is anyone listening? Are we speaking into the void? How am I juggling family? Do I go back to this mainstream? I know you've had those thoughts, but
Well, the trolls just showed up in the chat a few minutes ago. So, like,
oh,
clearly you're not speaking into the void. Once the trolls show up, you know you're doing good. We've got some Donald Trump is God. We've got some Almighty Israel and USA will save the world. We've got some MAGA. We've got the world loves you, Donald Trump. So, you know, once you have those sorts of things coming in, at least you're not yelling into a void. At least the bots are responding.
you know, the irony of all that is like, this is only helping us, the engagement. So keep hating on us, man.
Yes,
Like,
please, please. The hate
please.
viewership always helps. It drives engagement. We all understand the algorithm boosts things that have more engagement. So the hate and the talk back and forth, you know, just get you more eyeballs, which in the end, right, that is the point, to amplify the stories that you are covering, to make sure people know what is happening. And that's not going to happen if the algorithm doesn't push it out. You know, legacy media was a certain type of cage or leash, for lack of a better word.
Yep.
And the algorithm that big tech has sort of created is a different type of cage, leash, for lack of a better word, you know, and it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, maybe.
I'm going to give Eric, as we wrap the show up here, I'm going to give Eric his flowers. When we first started, I got reached out to by an executive producer at one of those top evening shows. I'm not going to tell you which one, but they asked me, their first question was, who the hell did you get off the beach? And that is like our terminology for people who have been laid off, who are super successful, but have not found a job. Who did you find off the beach? Because they were convinced that I snaked away or stole one of the EPs from the top evening shows. It wasn't anyone that was on the beach. It was Eric Sandoval, my best friend from college, the child of migrant farmers, somebody who has taught me a lot about politics. The world, is one of the most brilliant people that I know. And that's real. Like, sincerely, I always thought when I was at CNN, and I've told you this, not in front of however many people are watching, but I'll tell you now, I would always say when I was at CNN, if I had Eric with me, Fahad with me, Ben with me, I would be such a better, more informed journalist. And now I have Eric with me, you know, and you guys get to benefit from all that. And so keep subscribing, keep liking, keep sharing, keep amplifying our stuff so we can keep working together and being the team that you guys have come to trust, because honestly, it is a very small team. It's me, Eric, my wife. We saw Natalie Hernandez in there briefly. She's the one who hypes up the chat. I mean, like, it's honestly, it's not very many people, you know, it's just us. And so if you like what you see, keep sharing, keep rocking. University of Successful Chicanos for the win. Órale.
Well, you know, I am a little hopeful, which is not my usual look.
No, what? Holy shit, what?
Pessimism is what I wear. I am a little hopeful. I don't know if it's for 2026, but in general, because last night, actually, I was thinking about Prop 187, right?
Yep.
Which you know about. You grew up in. For a lot of people who didn't grow up in California, or if you're not Latino in California, so a lot of people did grow up in California still don't know about it. Back in the 90s, there was a state proposition that passed, 187, which is like kind of a blueprint for the sorts of immigration enforcement that we're seeing today. It was kind of thing that children in schools would have to prove legal status in order to be in schools. If you go to an emergency room, you'd have to prove legal status before even being seen by a doctor. No bilingual education, you know. Entonces, y para alguien que, bueno, mi primer idioma es español, entonces decir que, bueno, no podemos enseñar el español en las escuelas, bueno, un niño no puede aprender nada si no lo estás hablando en su idioma, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
And so that really passed in the 90s in California, and someone else that remembers it is probably Stephen Miller, since he is a Californian and he's our age exactly. But he looks a lot worse than you, Nick. I think evil does age you. But that law passed, and it was eventually struck down, right, by federal courts. These days, we don't have federal courts that are sort of friendly to those sorts of concepts. You know, you've got Justice Kavanaugh signing off on racial profiling. So I don't think we can have hope in courts to necessarily wrangle what we would say is a heavy-handed immigration enforcement the way we did back in the 90s in Prop 187. But what does give me hope from it is the blowback that happened after 187, because I saw it with my parents, right? My parents were green card holders. But after 187, when they saw how quickly sort of those tenuous rights can be taken away, they, along with many Mexicans in California, Latinos in general, did a big push to become citizens. You know,
Mm.
I watched my mom go to night school and really refine her English and make sure she could take the citizenship test. And she, you know, she's just one anecdote, but it happened across the board. And you saw a huge influx of Latinos get citizenship and become voters, right? And that is often credited with making California the sort of liberal bastion that it is today. A lot of people don't realize this. California is a historically very conservative state, right? They're the state that gave us Governor Ronald Reagan and ultimately President Reagan. They voted Republican many, many cycles before the 1990s, right? Pete Wilson, the governor at the time in the 90s, was super right wing. A lot of communities in California still are that. But in general, the majority of California moved to a more immigrant friendly liberal stance because of the blowback to 187. So if
Wow.
there's anything that gives me hope, it's that, fingers crossed, hopefully this heavy-handed overreach by the federal government is perhaps alerting a lot of Latinos in this country to just how tenuous their status is, even though they might be taxpayers, even though they might be as American as you know, tamale flavored apple pie. They will see this moment as a moment to assert themselves, right, and to go after that citizenship and to hopefully maybe reform and regenerate a new American kind of dream, in much the same way that happened in California. I doubt it'll happen in the next year, but maybe by the time, you know, my daughter's of voting age, we might see that.
I love
And
that,
so
man. I had
we'll
no
see.
idea that like that's the shit I'm talking about, bro. The context and the historical context. Like, this is why we're so smart, because Eric's behind the scenes, man. I love this. The context, this. So, yes, may this radicalize a whole new bastion of voters who see the bullshit for what it is and
Well,
are
there's nothing
able.
radical about human rights. You know, it's not radicalizing. It's just made this just have people really grab the bull by the horns, right? Because we've for so long allowed other people, right, to direct how we live our lives.
Mm,
And democracy should be, right, a taking of your own destiny in your hands, which every immigrant who might be watching this understands that. It's taking your destiny in your hands. So often people say, and I'm a dad now, so I can understand this. So often people say, I'll do anything for my child, right? Oh, I'll kill for my child. I'll steal for my child. I'll do anything. I'll die for my child. But suddenly crossing a line without the proper paperwork, oh, whoa, that's a bridge too far, you know? And everyone says, right, get in line. How long do you have to wait? How long do you have to wait to give your children a better life? You know,
mm.
I don't know. For me, the answer is you know, not very long. The moment my child was born, I wanted to give her a better life, both of
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
And so I don't really know where I was going with that.
Taking our destiny into our own hands, man. That's it. You
And
know,
that's what you've been doing all year, right?
I think so. I think, I think, man, that just hit me. I I've just been showing up, man, a day at a time, just like every morning I'm flooded with messages from Eric of the latest videos. He's the one who's scouring the internet. He's the one who's out there looking on TikTok. Every day I'm picking up the phone to call sources and to check out stories that we could chase down, ways that we could make our viewers smarter. Um, I just feel like this is exactly what we should be doing. And is there this big $1 million path ahead of us? Not so far, but maybe, what we need to be doing is different than thinking about money right now. I mean, we're taken care of. We're doing all right. We're going to be doing all right. If I can have the same kind of life that I have right now and continue this, and, you can have the same kind of life that you have right now and do things a little more, and we get to educate people. And that's what journalism is, man. I think we're serving the public in a way that I never was before, and my mind is in a spot that it wasn't before. And I'm just really grateful that I'm with you, man, in this. So I didn't expect you to join. You usually don't want to be seen.
That's true. Well, you know, we had a little bit of time left and didn't have any other guests lined up, so might as well.
Well, let me close it out. Let me wrap up the show. God bless you,
All right,
brother. I'll
brother.
call you
Love you.
later.
Catch you later.
Love you, man. Love you so much. Oh, love all you guys. I love all you guys that are here, seeing all the comments. John Wyman, Nat Dez, 2424, and even the trolls. Like Eric says, it's just like for me right now at this point, it's just another affirmation. I get harassed a lot by people in my life who think that because I was fair to them, that I agreed with their politics or that I think it's okay to persecute immigrants because they're illegal. I really can't be any more clear than saying I'm not against law enforcement. I'm against the mass deportation policy of President Trump. I think it's shit. I think it's wrong in so many ways, and he's taken advantage of the morsels of truth and convincing people that this is the way to go and that this is what is just and righteous. And, we struggle from a disease of individualism in this country. Sometimes until it happens to you, you don't really care. And I hope that it doesn't take that with every single person that's not being affected right now. So as we enter 2026, we enter with a lot of hope, and we enter with a mission, purpose-driven mission. And we enter with a lot more of you guys than we entered 2025 with. So thank you guys so much. I'm not big on resolutions. I was thinking about this as I was running earlier today. My New Year's resolution is to do what I do every day. I try to be a better husband to my wife, a better father to my children, and a better friend to my friends, a better son to my mom. And, sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm falling short, but I'm always willing to try. So here's to more willingness. And thank you guys, as always, for joining this show. It was a lot of fun. Thank you to Beth. Thank you to Lydia. Thank you, Eric. And thank you, everyone in the chat. I saw all the comments. Thank you guys for helping us make truth go viral. And as always, have a great year on purpose. Have a great day on purpose. All that stuff. Happy 2025, guys. See you next time.